So, if you haven't heard about this, I feel it is my duty to inform you. If you are a Marvel Comics fan, if you are a Wolverine fan, an X-Men fan, a fan of comic books in general, I think you're going to enjoy this. Marvel put out a Wolverine audio drama. And what an audio drama is basically an audio book, but played out like a movie. So it's a scripted play, basically, without imagery. So you kind of imagine it all in your mind. It's like a movie in your mind, basically like listening to an audiobook. So they put it out in podcast form on Stitcher. Stitcher is just basically a podcast app where you can listen to a variety of different podcasts. So they put it out in podcast form, and it's a 10-part series, 30-minute episodes. And this is something I've actually been waiting for a long time. Like, I'm really into listening to audiobooks. I listen almost every day while driving. And I always felt that was something that was missing, was superhero stories, comic book stories. I'm like, why don't they turn these comic stories, X-Men, The Flash, Batman, Spider-Man, like, why aren't they turning these into audiobooks, right? Or writing stories kind of like in graphic novel form, not really in comic book form, but with the same characters. And I don't know, I've been wanting this for a long time. But I got one even better. I got an audio drama, which, like I said, it's played out more like a movie. It's not just one guy reading, one guy narrating a story about these characters. It's like a scripted sequence of stories. And, a bunch of different voice actors, sound effects, music. Like, it is a movie without imagery. I've listened to plenty of these before. There's this character called Mac Bolan that I used to listen to back in the day. And I always thought it was a really cool concept. Like, not an audiobook, but an audio drama. I also was a big fan of classic radio dramas. I used to listen to radio classics on Sirius XM. And they would do like all the old shows from like the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, like the Jack Benny program. And then they had, on top of that, they had these like dramas. They had like soap operas, which I don't know if you know this, but like shows like As the World Turns and Guiding Light and stuff like that. Those soap operas like started out on the radio, before there was TV. And they had a ton of other ones, including some comic book characters. Like the Shadow was one of them. They had Superman was one of the first, and I always enjoyed them. But they're a little more cartoony, a little more wholesome. You know what I mean? I always wanted kind of a real, like a dark comic book story, like just not surface level stuff, not jokey stuff, but like serious story. And finally, I've got that with my favorite character, Wolverine. Probably a lot of people's favorite character. And they did an amazing job with this thing, man. It is dark. It is gritty. It feels like a Wolverine story. It takes place in Alaska. The story's called Wolverine, The Long Night. And it's basically... What was unique about this is it's not from Wolverine's perspective, which I kind of liked and I kind of didn't. I think if they make another one of these, which, God, I hope they do. I hope they make a bunch of these with a bunch of different characters. But what they did is, rather than having it be from Wolverine's perspective, they had it from the perspective of these federal agents. And these federal agents go up to Alaska and they're investigating a bunch of murders that have taken place. Maulings that people are saying probably is due to a giant bear attacks. As we know, though, it turns out that it might possibly be Wolverine killing these people. But it's a very cool concept because it's from their perspective, like I said. And it's just like a series of interviews that they do with townspeople. And, they're journeying around town to investigate this story. And whenever it has other people's perspectives of encounters that they've had with Logan, and I thoroughly enjoyed this thing. I highly recommend it. If you're into comic books whatsoever, go check this thing out. Go get Stitcher has a free 30-day trial. Go get that, if nothing else, just to listen to this story, if you're not really into podcasts or whatever. But it's the only way to listen to the entire story, is to get the premium Stitcher package. So you can either get 1 week or a 30-day free trial. Go do that. Listen to this thing. Come back here. Let me know what you thought of the story in the comments, because I feel like everyone would enjoy this thing that enjoys comic books.